Hello. Today I would like to share a little story about a lonely goose. See, I don't really like geese though. I know it's a bit of a weird way to preface a story about one, but I just don't really get on with them. I think this bitterness that I feel towards them is relatively recent. It started when I moved to Birmingham. See, I lived in a flat right beside the canal, where I became quite well acquainted with the local geese. See, they'd hurl their insults every day like mardy snakes flung from a catapult. Hiss, hiss, honk, honk. All of that. They're awfully rude and aggressive, much like the busy people of London, except pushier. Can you believe it? Of course, because I'm from the countryside, it was quite a surprise that such rude geese would be around. And in the spring, they were particularly territorial. When the rest of us were joyous for the sun to be back from her holiday in Spain, the geese would chase you around, honking you away from the canals. Anyway, it's safe to say that the Canadian geese of Birmingham aren't my favourite animal folk. So here's a story of how I began to change my mind. You see, I went for a walk the other day, as I often do when I've spent the day in one place. It was a cold September's day. Autumn was breezing into my eyes as I glared into the amber gradient that was forming on the leaves of the tree outside my window. The sun shone bright across the empty blue sky, and the wind tore through those leaves that I'd been staring at. It was the kind of day where I had to wear a jumper and a coat. I walked up the road with my hands firmly grasping the insides of my pockets. For whatever reason, I decided to take my camera and portable recorder, which is this, I'll show you, this little microphone doohickey. I'd messed about with the settings a little bit on the camera to make the pictures look extra autumnal, as that's how I was feeling. And I took my time as I wandered along the canals just above my house. I stopped to see the little details of nature that I'd missed since I'd been away for the summer. What had changed, what had grown, what had shrunk. I was struck by the pinkish red of the blackberries in their nests of straw blonde and fiery greens. I could hear the leaves cheering with the little birds that danced on the wind beneath the bright sun. The waters offered a sort of calm shimmer, the sort that reminds you of the conditions it reflects, each ripple steered by odd sticks and brambles and driven by the athletic wind. And those sticks and brambles, they had an almost dramatic stillness on the water and the currents. It was so still that the movements of the world around were exaggerated. With each step I took, I noticed the shifting perspective upon the sticks that I had, and each rippling wave was long and gradual, and you could see it in such detail. An eon of peaceful paces later, I came across this lonely goose. Upon first glance, my legs pulled me away from the water's edge, but as I drifted closer, the calm of the day compelled me to approach politely. See, he was much like any Canadian goose in looks, besides the relatively short neck and kind eyes. In personality, however, he had a much greater likeness to a sycamore tree. The lonely goose wasn't as brittle as birch, nor quite as wise as an old oak. My interaction with this particular goose was certainly most like evening tea with a sycamore. We locked eyes as I tiptoed towards the water's edge. He remained perfectly still, with only a dull nod of acknowledgement when I took my seat beside his. And for a while we just looked at each other without uttering a word. We remained perfectly transfixed and unmoving. We were about as close as you could get, and our gazes remained strong. Not in a romantic way, but just captivated. paper-thin sheet of ice tapped with a teeny-weeny little hammer. The silence was quietly shattered. "You're beautiful, mate," said the goose. "You know, I hardly get to look at you guys. You're always plodding along, trying to get someplace else." I paused for a moment, a little taken aback by his straightforwardness. Thanks, man. I'm in the same boat, really. I've always been a bit weary around geese, but you're alright, you," I said. "Don't be daft. I'm not on a boat. Anyway, I best get back to it," said the goose, as he tilted his head towards the leaves dancing in the wind. You know when you let out a breath that draws your attention because you suddenly notice that you're relaxed? That feeling of your chest lightly sinking into the warmth of your belly, and you kind of zoom in and you notice the breath out of all the others. You're calmer now. Well, I could have sworn I heard a breath like that escaping his beak. And I thought, yeah, I know what you mean. The end. Thanks for watching, or listening, or however you consumed. I'll be doing these every week, so do subscribe for more, and feel free to watch my little introduction video if you want to know what all of this is about. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Along the road as it comes to